Hello, everyone. Cassandra Sullivan here with Revive Your Hope Coaching, helping others through their grief and stepping into the place of acceptance and finding joy and authentic happiness in life again and hope for their future. So, today's topic, I'm going to be covering the fact that it's okay to not be okay, regardless of what other people are thinking, regardless of how you're judging yourself or shaming yourself. It really is okay to not be okay. And I know that talking about our feelings and not saying just the, oh, I'm good, I'm fine, I'm okay, I'm great, is sometimes socially unacceptable. One, we don't want to burden others with, I'm not doing okay today, or I'm really sad today, or I'm really angry at what's happened to me. Or we are ashamed or don't want to be viewed as weak minded or weak, that we can't just get over what's happened in a timely manner. It could be like a decade, 2 decades down the road, and we could still be feeling the effects of that grief, or we've stuffed it down so much that there's just no stopping. It's bubbling to the surface and it's coming with a vengeance. And it'll hit you a decade later. So I kind of just want to touch on 3 different areas that could help you be okay with where you are and learn to share where you are with those around you, with your tribe, your loved ones, your family, your friends. Or a support group, or finding a coach or therapist. It's okay to not be okay and to not be fully healed wherever you are in your journey. So one thing that, the first thing I want to touch on are, recognizing that other people's judgments and shame and shooting all over you. You should be over this by now. Why aren't you over this by now? Oh, it's been about a decade and you're still hurting. And just recognize that them not understanding where you are just means that they're ignorant to what you're going through. They don't know what it is you're going through and feeling. So oftentimes they haven't experienced the loss at the level that you have. And grief is so intimate and personal that no one's going to understand your specific loss unless they've walked it. And so if someone hasn't lost, a sibling, a parent, a child, a friend, hasn't experienced suicide, hasn't experienced a miscarriage, whatever it may be, they may not really truly understand or know how to show up for you. So recognize that they just don't know, and you can even begin to help them understand and help them. I have a friend who will ask questions and say, oh, does this bother you still? And why does that bother you? And how come, you acted this way right after Braden passed away? And I have to explain, well, this is grief and this is what it does. And it kind of just overtakes you. And we have that where she can ask questions and I can explain things. And she's like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. Like that, I understand that. And so now when other people experience grief around her, she's equipped. She knows. So that's the first thing, is to kind of just let people off the hook for saying stupid things, because people are going to say dumb things. And so when we can begin to separate that from us and stop taking it personally and release them from that and maybe explain and educate, that would really help. So the second thing I want to cover is, replacing verbiage. So certain verbiage, I should be over this by now. Why am I still hurting? That is one of the most common things that we tend to tell ourselves. I know one of the things that I had said to myself was, I've done so much work around this. Why is this coming up still? It's been a decade. Why is this still hitting? I do some of that self-talk to me as well. And I have to remind myself that grief doesn't ever just 100% go away. But when it hits, we can learn to flow with it and allow it to a point where it doesn't overtake us and we're not sitting in this black hole of never ending sorrow and anger and sadness. So one thing that can really help with that is asking yourself, what would you say to a friend? Would you tell your friend, why are you still grieving? You should be over this right now. It's been X amount of years. Would you do that to one of your best friends? I think not. And if you would, you need to check yourself. So that's one thing that can really snap you out of. If you start to feel yourself shaming yourself and placing judgment on yourself, you can quickly switch to love and compassion and grace by saying, what would I do for a friend of mine? What would I say to a friend of mine going through this exact same thing? That's one of the best things that has worked for me. And so the next thing I want to touch on is giving yourself, scheduling grief moments. So kind of taking a block of time. So when you know that a birthday is coming up, Mother's Day is coming up, Father's Day, your siblings' birthdays, wedding dates, due dates, you name it, death dates, whatever it is, and scheduling time around that period so that you can allow yourself to grieve, because sometimes it's sneaky. And if you've done a lot of work, it'll really sneak up on you. An example, Kieran's first birthday, my child that I have now, my rainbow baby, his first birthday came around and I was just angry and irritable, and like there was no reason for me to be lashing out the way that I was. Everything was planned. We had everything we needed. And there was something just subtly picking at me and pulling at me. And it wasn't until a friend said, well, have you thought of Braden in this process? You were robbed of his first birthday. Do you think that could be what's going on? And sure enough, heck yeah, it was. As soon as I let myself sit for that moment, I think I gave myself about an hour before Kieran's party started, and I just sat and sobbed in my friend's arms. And I apologized to my husband and my family for being short and grouchy. And I really just allowed myself that time. I blocked that time immediately to release the emotions that I was feeling and the grief that I was feeling for being robbed of Braden's first birthday, so that I could show up and be there and experience and celebrate the heck out of Kieran's first birthday, because it wasn't his fault that mommy was going through this. And it wasn't even mommy's fault that I was going through it, but I can recognize what I'm going through, and I have the responsibility, and I can make that choice to process and figure out what's happening so that I can show up for Kieran the way that he needs. So it's not our fault that these things have happened to us. However, we can learn to start making the choices to show up better, to do better, to honor ourselves so much better, so that we can honor everyone else around us and help them honor us in the process. So I really hope that these tips have helped. If you have any questions, comment below, let me know. Email me, call me, text me, you name it, I'm here. If you have something that would help someone else, comment that below. I'd love to hear what has helped you in your journey as well. So until next time, I'll see you later. Have a good one.